The facilitator of the National Multi-Party Convention, William Gumede, says the two-day discussions taking place in Kempton Park is an opportunity to reimagine South Africa and tell a story of hope. He was speaking at the convention attended by 7 political parties. The leaders of the DA, IFP, FF+, ActionSA, UIM, SNP and ISANCO have committed themselves to rise above what they call narrow political interests for the greater good of the country. The convention is expected to end tomorrow. SABC News reporter Natasha Phiri is there and joins us live now. Natasha, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. What have the parties said about the declaration that will be signed at the end of this particular convention, as we know that this was one of the contentious issues going into this particular gathering?
Definitely, Bongi, and also another contentious issue is actually the name of this pact. So we do understand that several political parties had actually objected to the Moonshot Pact, and of course, henceforth, the new name of this pact is the Multi-Party Charter for South Africa. And of course, Professor Gumede just actually telling us some of the conversations, saying that it was a robust conversation that these political parties had actually ensued in, because you would understand, Bongi, and you would know that these are 7 different political parties, 7 different ideologies, 7 different constituencies as well. So you would understand the nature of these discussions would be robust. We aren't allowed to actually speak to the leaders of the various political parties as these engagements actually are ongoing, but we do understand that tomorrow at 6 p.m. There will be a media briefing where not only Professor Gumede will actually come and brief members of the media, but the various leaders of these political parties. We're actually expecting some form of feedback. Right now, we're not sure when it'll happen, maybe in the next hour as indicated on the group, but this is because of the nature of the discussions that are taking place, and just talking to various leaders of political parties saying that leading up to this process, it was not easy. You'd have to understand that Bongiwe, various other political parties need to, they need to prioritize, they need to sacrifice, certain things. So this is, as we actually cover this, two-day convention, we are eagerly awaiting Professor Gumede, and following that, tomorrow in the morning, there will be discussions. We are told that the leaders still need to sign the declaration and the vision, and then they'll actually be able to elaborate what the vision for this multi-party democracy or charter will be moving forward.
And it's going to be interesting to see how much of a sacrifice each of them demonstrate that they have made for this particular process. But Natasha, it begs the question, though, because it looks like it's still not able to shed itself of the image that this is a DA gathering. And I wonder, how do they plan to, navigate this particular route, especially because some are still saying that this appears to be a gathering of the Democratic Alliance to consolidate power. It has nothing to do with power sharing.
Well, Bongi, that's so true. And earlier on, we heard Neil de Beer of UIM, the president of the UIM, saying that and publicly objecting to the name of the Moonshot Pact, and also saying that, he doesn't understand what the name Moonshot Pact is. They need to give this pact a name that will actually resonate with South Africans. But also, we heard the Professor Gumede saying that there were inputs where the public could actually submit their inputs, and the cutoff date was Monday, the 12th of August. We also had civil society organizations actually making various inputs, as well as ordinary members of the public, because remember, the resounding sentiments from all these political parties that they should put aside their narrow politics and their own ideas and views, and this should be a South African-led and society-led initiative. Hence, they opened up that portal for inputs. I was reading those inputs made by the Institute, the IRI, the Institute of Race Relations, earlier on, and they've made several inputs, ones that speak to the economy, to infrastructure in our country, to job creation. So these are some of the inputs that they will be taking into account. But, the tone from these various political parties that, listen, it's not a DA, it should not be a DA-led initiative, it should not be an IFP-led initiative. We should all come together for the greater good of South Africans, because at the end of the day, this is about South Africans. In the words of IFP leader SABC, it said that it does not hate the ANC, but they hate what the ANC has done to the people of South Africa. And therefore, this initiative should be led by the very people of South Africa, by society, to ensure that this actually works for the greater good of South Africans. But it would be interesting to know, Bongiwe, we've been speaking to various analysts about this very issue, saying that how successful would this pact be? And some have raised concerns about it, saying that would they be able to put their political differences aside to actually work for the greater good in South Africa? Another analyst had raised the fact that, listen, what seems to be working in the ANC's favor is that there is no strong opposition party, but also other issues that have been coming out, and we've been asking as members of the media is that how will this pact actually work, Bongiwe? What mechanism will be put in place to ensure that all political parties are happy? Will there be, agreements that are binding, that are signed by the political parties to ensure that they don't move out of the pact? And these are just some of the questions that are coming out. For the smaller parties, if they don't reach the threshold, what's going to happen? But of course, a bigger question, Bongiwe, is that if the ANC does not dip below 50% in next year's elections, what then? What will happen? So I think these are just some of the critical questions that we will be raising towards the various political parties, and of course, the independent chair of this convention, Professor William Gumede.